We're going to do a small test, of how well this knife has been sharpened. So, I also studied in Japan where my mentor kind of introduced me to Japanese knives. So, I keep telling my team at my restaurant that life is too short for blunt knives. Keep them sharp.
So we'll quickly start with Chef Lakhan. How long has it been with Mizu? How has that journey been?
It's been 7 years since Mizu. We are a COVID baby. We started about 3 months before COVID and we hit COVID directly. So it was all downhill to a point where we were almost going to give up the restaurant till our friends, family kind of pushed us, said that, we believe in your product. You guys have been doing a good job. Don't let this stop you. And we restarted Mizu post or during COVID again. And rest is history. Yeah.
So do you have any super fun story of you working the fryer station or working in Bombay Canteen that we can warm up this crowd with? And don't worry, Hussein can't walk through. It's too crowded. And we've kept the knives away from him, so you can just go all out, uncensored.
So small story. So actually, no one knows this. I have Bombay Canteen kind of imprinted on my arm. It's the shape of your logo. What happened was the first time I got burnt because of an under.
Wait. We don't do this. We don't brand our employees.
No, this. No, so I think I was in the Bombay Canteen kitchen 8 years ago or 7 years ago. I was a young chef. They were kind enough to let me inside the kitchen, and I was a very hyper chef. So one day I was removing something outside, I think the eggs Kejriwal from the under counter oven, and I burned my hand really bad, and post which I've never burned my hand again. So it's like lessons, but the burn on my hand actually left a logo like Bombay Canteen, so that's there. Don't be afraid to make mistakes. Don't be afraid to fail. Only because I really badly burned my hand one day with an oven, have I been careful enough to not burn my hand again, So life is all about falling down and getting yourself back up, falling down and getting yourself back up and higher again. Yeah. So let this be your motto. Whatever happens, whatever comes your way, you have to go across it, you have to jump over it, and you have to come out on the other end. Yeah, I guess that's life.
Amazing. That's a great story.
Yeah.
Are there any chefs in the crowd who have burn marks on their hand?
Everyone, I guess. Yeah.
Do any of them look like Bombay Canteen?
Mine does.
I'm sure there are some that look like an ex-girlfriend also. But
so a lot on Japanese knives, less on Western knives. I'm going to go through it quick because there's a lot of information. So there are essentially two types of knives which we use. One is a single bevel knife and another one is a double bevel knife. So a single bevel knife is actually authentic Japanese knife. You have one side and you have the other side, but this is a right-handed knife. I cannot use this knife with my left hand because it's sharp, as in the blade is only on one side. While a Western knife can be used with a right hand or a left hand because the blade is on both the sides. Generally, Japanese knives are thinner than Western knives is because they are more precision-based knives. A Western knife essentially is an all-purpose chef's knife. You can do a lot of things with it. Japanese knives are made for very specific things, So this one is a Yanagiba. It is essentially made for slicing fish, sashimi, nigiri in specific. Now, what a lot of people don't know about Japanese knives is if you look at it closely from behind, there is actually going to be a bevel, like a curve. This is there to actually create an air gap and cut the fish nicely so all the ingredients don't get stuck onto the back of your knife. Any chef over here understands what I'm talking about. Once you cut fast, a lot of things will just get stuck on the back of your knife and then fall over. So a Japanese knife has a curve, a very slight curve at the end of it, which actually prohibits it from getting stuck to the knife and falling off. So that is one basic difference between a Japanese knife and a Western knife.
Could you say the name again and slowly?
The Yanagiba.
Yanagiba.
Okay. Yanagiba. It's a sashimi knife. It's used for slicing fish. Okay. And so another difference, a Western knife or a stainless steel knife will not rust, okay? But a Japanese knife, which is made about with carbon steel, is going to maybe, if you put any acid on it, or even if like there are blots of water left overnight, the next day you're going to find some oxidization and it's going to start rusting. So Japanese knives are made up of carbon steel, while Western knives are made up of stainless steel. Though carbon steel is much more harder than stainless steel. So you can take Western knives and kind of twist it, you know, but you cannot take a Japanese knife and turn it. It is very, very, very hard, right? So that's just a couple of differences between Japanese knives and Western knives. So I'm just going to quickly go through the knives that I have. So this is called a usuba, which is essentially a bigger vegetable cutting knife, like watermelons, melons, which have a harder skin outside, where sometimes if you use a small knife, it's actually difficult to cut out a watermelon. With this, I can actually skin a watermelon in maybe 5 seconds, you know. That it's heavy, you know, you can, it has a lot of weight, so it goes through the melon very easily, right? This one is a gyuto-shaped knife, which is actually a Western knife, but it's shaped like a Japanese knife. This is a yanagiba, as we spoke before. This is for slicing fish. This is a deba, which is a heavy-bladed Japanese knife, essentially used for filleting fish. There is a difference between slicing fish and filleting fish, right? If you use this knife, of which a lot of kitchens and restaurants and chefs do, you're going to actually chip the blade of the knife if you go through it over bones, you know. But when you have a heavy bladed knife, you're not going to be chipping the knife. It is made to cut through bones. So a deba is made to cut through bones. A yanagiba is made through slicing fish with a lot of precision, right? So a little bit about Japanese knives. There are a lot more different kinds of Japanese knives. Now we are going to go on, these are really expensive knives, right? So we are going to go on to how to maintain them, keep them sharp, right? So you have Japanese stones, essentially to keep your knives sharp. There are different kinds of stones as well. There are wet stones, there are splash stones, and then there are oil stones. Oil stones, I personally recommend, please don't use them, you know. They are very, very old school stones which are used for very sharpening tools over knives, right? So this is a Japanese whetstone. It actually has a lot of pores inside it. So once you actually, you cannot see it, but once you actually put it into water, you generally see a lot of bubbles kind of coming out of the stone. What is essentially happening is the water is saturating the stone, you know, and you need that water to saturate the stone, because once you sharpen your knife, if the stone is too dry, the steel is going to erode off a lot. So what you actually do is when you sharpen your knife on a Japanese stone, you're actually chipping away the steel, right? So let me just show you something. This is a knife that I bought about 13 years ago, okay? And this knife, the blade was about that much. I've been sharpening it since 13 years and the blade has been chipped off completely. So every knife has a life, you know. You got to work on the knife like a craftsman to make sure that it has an elongated knife and that you keep using it for your purposes really well. Okay, so a basic thing is, so you have numbers on stones like 200, 400, 600, 800, 1000, 2000, 3000, 8000. These are basically the grits of the stones. So if you imagine a square inch, you know, and if you imagine the roughness of the stone, a 200 grit will have 200 rivets on it, and a 1000 grit will have 1000 rivets on it. So a stone which is 1000 grit will be much smoother than a stone which is 200 grits, which is going to be much rougher. Now, when you start using, when you have a knife which is completely like out of purpose, has no sharpening tip, is not cutting vegetables properly, you will start sharpening your knife from a 200 stone, right? Because it has absolutely no blade on it, it has absolutely no sharpness on it. And then you kind of progress. So Stones are divided into two categories. There are sharpening stones and then there are finishing stones, right? So you use 200, 400, 600, 800 and 1000 to sharpen your knives, and you go to 2000, 3000 and 8000 to finish your knives. So sharpening is getting the knife sharp, and finishing it is giving it a polish, a shine, and giving it smoothness, right? So we will go about demonstrating on how we sharpen knives. So firstly, when you have Japanese wet stones, you have to soak them into water for 10 minutes, and then you're going to see these bubbles which saturate the stone. And once those bubbles have gone inside and the bubbles have stopped, you kind of remove the stone, you put it on a surface which is stable, and then you start sharpening your knife. Now, when you have a French knife, okay, or a Western knife, you have to sharpen it both the sides as the edge is both the sides, right? But when you have a Japanese knife, you only have to sharpen it from one side, okay, which is this side. Now, if you look closely, okay, this is the main base of the knife. And then the knife kind of tilts, right, with a small angle. This is actually what you need to sharpen. So if you keep your knife flat like this, it is not going to sharpen it. You have to keep it at a slight angle, you know. This is actually called the shinogi line, okay. Yeah, the shinogi line, which is this is the blade of the knife. This is to just like give it stability. So now if I would be sharpening my knife, now this is a relatively sharp knife. So I will not go to the 200 stone at all. What I am going to do, because this knife already has a sharpened blade on it, so I'm just going to sharpen it a bit with 1000, and I'm going to kind of finish it with the 2000 and the 8000, right, for it to get a nice shine, smoothness, and a finish. So I'm going to demonstrate on how you sharpen a knife, right? So you take the stone. I'm going to use this one is soaked longer. So guys, also just to show you guys, this is a new stone that I have been using. This is a new stone which I opened today. This is the same stone that I have been using, which is the same stone I have been using this for a year. And the stone also kind of erodes off, you know. And I was showing you all before. This is a knife, which is a newer knife, which is in full length. And this is a knife which is 13 years old, which I have been sharpening since 13 years. So you eventually eroded the steel off because you're sharpening it, right? Yeah. So this is the part where you got to be careful. And you wet your blade a bit because you shouldn't have resistance. The water helps it keep it smooth. You take the knife, the back end of the knife, okay? You create a slight angle. Now, I am going to create a slight angle. You give this side pressure, okay? So you're kind of hitting the blade on the stone, and you kind of start sharpening it. It's very important to run the whole length of the stone. Otherwise, what's going to happen is the stone is going to get curved. So this is actually was one of my first stones I got where I couldn't sharpen a knife properly. And I've actually ruined this stone. It's a really expensive stone. But because I just kept sharpening it on this area, this kind of got used while this area did not. But now I cannot sharpen my knife on this anymore because the stone is not even, you know. And if you don't sharpen your knife on an even stone, the knife is actually going to go, you know, curved, which you don't want, obviously. Yeah. So you take the whole length of the stone. While the knife pushes towards you, you got to apply more pressure than when it's going away from you, right? So here you go. I will keep my hand on the top part portion of the knife, my 3 fingers putting pressure over here, giving it like a 30-degree angle and going for it. So you see the mud which is generating, that's actually the carbon steel which is getting eroded off. So maybe about like 30-40 seconds on this side. Then you leave that blade, come to the lower end of the knife, again put pressure and keep going. I'm using the whole length of the stone, as you can see, and I'm being very careful with it. Now, as you can see, you see this muck which is accumulating. That's actually the stone getting eroded off and the steel of your blade getting eroded off. You know, that's how you know you're sharpening it correctly. Okay. Just going to finish sharpening the knife. It won't take much long. And guys, you have to be really careful to sharpen the knife evenly and go through the whole length of the stone. Okay, I'm going to just clean the knife, clean the stone a bit. And once you know you've done it rightly, there's actually a tip which is called the burr, which is formed, and you can actually feel it over here. So what happens once you put pressure on the knife over here, the tip kind of tilts a bit. So then you have to finish the knife, just a couple of, just working it up and down just a little bit, which is on the side which is not sharp, right? So the burr goes away, which is the tilt in the blade kind of goes away. This is just to finish the knife. So I think this knife is good. Okay, it doesn't need a lot of sharpening because it was sharp from before. But this is the 1000 stone, right? So now I have finished sharpening it, but now I want to give it a nice shine and I want to give it nice smoothness, you know, so it cuts perfectly and there is no stopping in between. So another way how I or my mentor kind of taught me to check the blade of the knife is to use your nail, okay? You keep the tip of the knife here and then you run it through your nail and you can actually kind of feel the parts which are not sharp enough. So I see this is not perfect over here. So I will go back to my 1000 stone and I will just sharpen this end a bit. Right? Put this back into water. Now I'm going to use a 8000 directly, okay, because I know my knife is sharp. So I just want to finish it, give it a shine, you know, give it smoothness. So I'm going to go to the 8000 stone. Yeah. And so the higher the grit of the stone, the lesser the erosion of the blade will be, obviously, right? And to make sure the burr is gone away, just finishing the knife. So according to me, if you maintain your knife every day, that's all you need to do to keep it sharp, right? That is taking a knife which is well maintained and keeping it sharp for a long period of time. So you don't have to go to a lower grit stone to erode off your blade a lot, right? So we're going to do a small test, you know, of how well this knife has been sharpened.
For all of y'all who just joined in, if y'all can't see it, you can see it on the Instagram live at the Bombay Canteen.
So take a piece of paper. That was as simple as that, right? Now,
one more for sure.
Yeah. I mean, so I keep telling my team at my restaurant that life is too short for blunt knives, you know, keep them sharp. Yeah. So it doesn't really take long to sharpen a knife. You have to be aware about what tools you are using to sharpen your knife, how you are sharpening your knife. So information is Very important. Information is power. Uh,
Thank you.
a little bit about the stones also. There are two types of stones. There is a Japanese wet stone, there is a splash stone, and there is an oil stone. Oil stone, please don't use it. They are used to they are used to sharpen like tools. A splash stone is one which does not need too much water, but it does not sharpen it really well. I mean, most of the stones that you find on Amazon are splash stones. But there is this one particular brand which you can find on Cart to India. You can order it from Amazon. It's called King, which is this, you know. If you guys want a good stone that will last you for a really long time, and you can actually keep your knife sharpened with just one stone, you know. 1,000, if you have 1,000, every 2 days, just use 1,000 stone to keep your knife sharp. You don't need all of this. You will have your knife sharp, shiny for a very, very, very long time. So 1,000, 2,000 is amazing, but that is if you're doing it every day, right? Now, if you run a restaurant like this, we will have a lot of knives which are completely worn out. Those knives you start from 200, 400, right? 200, 400, straight up. This is not a Japanese knife. This is an SS steel knife. This is not going to catch rust. So 200, 400,000, that's all you need for this knife. You know, it's for the Japanese knives that you need 2,000, 3,000, 4,000, 8,000, because they are made of carbon steel and they rust, you know. So you could use a 200 stone or a 400 stone to get this knife really sharp to that level. Yeah, thank you.
So just also, the reason I kept him here is one of the things that we will happen is y'all are going to go back home and go to Amazon and get the best Japanese knife. And I feel knives are like, I'm going to be very dramatic, like swords. You need to earn it. A good Japanese knife is something you earn through your way.
Yeah.
As a student, I know at college, even for me, in our toolkit, there was a specific knife that was given to us, and that is enough to start work with, because you need to get better at just protecting that knife, taking care of that knife, because that's your first tool that you have.
Yes.
I'm sure you have one of those in your thing, but
this is 14 years old, 13 to 14 years old. It was one of the first knives that my mentor helped me to buy in Japan. It has my name printed here. But this knife is really close to me. And I maintained it because I cared for this knife. And it's taken me 16 years to buy all of this. So it's not like I landed one day and I was like, chalo, sab knife kharid lete hai, you know. It was over a period of every 2 years that I bought a new knife. And I learned how to take care of them. Yeah.
where did you learn all this? Like the knowledge, like I was mesmerized with the knowledge that you have. And more importantly, first is where did you learn the basics of knife, then when did you go up to Japanese knives? And the second thing which I found when you were doing it is, which I want everyone to remember, is when you're sharpening your knife, that's the only thing you should be doing. Like literally his phone has been going off with every celebrity asking for a reservation right now here. But he had so much focus on that knife, because I know how dangerous this can be.
Yeah.
So if you could cover both these things.
I mean, my journey started in culinary school, like all of y'all. You know, they gave us really basic tips about French knives, Western knives. I also studied in Japan, where my mentor kind of introduced me to Japanese knives, but he did not have the time to sit and show me everything. So he just blasted some amount of knowledge, and the rest is on yourself, you know. Life, school, things are only going to get you to a point. How you go beyond that point is your thirst for knowledge. I mean, even before coming here, I knew I had my knife knowledge all set and I knew how to sharpen my knives. But for the last 3 days, I was just, you know, reading my books again, seeing YouTube videos again, so I don't say anything wrong. And that is on me, because it was important for me to give out the right kind of information, right? And I was hungry enough for that knowledge that I scoured through YouTube videos, pages, cookbooks, to get all this information, trial, testing, ruining knives, ruining stones. So I ruined the stone, right? This was my first stone. So nothing without failure, what this session is. Please don't be afraid to make a mistake. Please don't be afraid to fail, because that is the only way you can learn. So I tell a lot of people, a lot of y'all don't know I used to run a small little bar before Mizu, okay? And I possibly did everything wrong in that place. I failed maybe for the entire 4 years, that now me and my business partner, we are like, we failed so much that we're not going to fail anymore again, because we tried, there was everything to try, and we went wrong at every step. But only when you do things wrong can you know you don't have to do this again, How else would you know? You're not going to be born with that knowledge. Until and unless you have good mentors, there's Chef Hussain and, a lot of other people in this room. Mentors are really important, you should catch them and keep them close to you. But other than that, it is you, yourself, and that's it, and it's your hunger about how much knowledge you want, and knowledge is power. Yeah.
And things to keep in mind when you're doing this, like what are the safety stuff? I saw you holding the table down so that it was easier for him.
Yeah.
Things when they're doing it.
So,
one, please don't do this at home
Don't
while
do this at
recording
home.
yourself. I know we all love to do one-hand selfie and do stuff. Please don't do that at home.
No,
but
please
things to
don't.
remember when you're doing this.
Please keep your stations clean. Please have bandages. I always keep bandages. Keep your stations clean. Have your setup done properly. Do not rush the process. And it's almost like meditation, So for cooks, especially for chefs, I see a lot of chefs who get completely involved with what they are doing and get lost into that pot of stock or sharpening knives. That's actually a form of meditation, according to me. So the more you value your work, the more you are aware about whatever is happening around you, the lesser mistakes you will make. So keep your stations clean, keep yourself calm, do not rush the process, have enough knowledge, before you try something out. Read, watch videos, there is a lot of ways to get information in this world today. Yeah, I used to be younger, we didn't have Instagram, right? And I've been wanting to cook since I was 12. So I used to watch TV shows, and I used to stop the cooking shows, and I used to stop it, and I used to have a book with me, and I used to write what they are doing, right? So that is just me, but I mean that's how hungry you need to be, yeah.
So we're going to open it up to 3 questions because we are running a bit late on the schedule.
Please select.
I'll select you. If you could just shout out your question, I'll repeat it for
Some
everyone.
water. Yeah. So honing leather
Wait,
again.
I'll repeat the question because everyone here is chefs use holding leather.
Honing leather.
Yeah, honing leather.
Yeah.
What's your advice on it?
So again, honing leather is to keep your knife sharp on a day-to-day basis. But if you have a blunt knife, the honing leather is not going to sharpen it, right? A honing leather is like a 8,000 stone or a 3,000 stone, where at the end of the day or before a task, you kind of take your honing leather, sharpen it so it's nice and sharp, and you go for it. But if you have a completely blunt knife, the honing leather is not going to do anything.
Okay, the lady, just for your perseverance of keeping your hand up. Yeah, with the glasses.
Sorry?
Her question is, what is your take on electric sharpeners?
I've never used one. I don't know. I mean, again, this is a very, this is the method that is being followed since thousands and thousands of years. This knife has actually been made by a samurai sword maker, Electric, I've never used it. I don't know of any chef. Actually, Chef Hussain, have you used the electric sharpener? I don't know, maybe Chef
I
Hussain
don't think he
can-
uses it on the knives.
Yeah.
Next question.
Yes.
Yeah, you in the glasses, and then we'll come to you and we are done. Yeah. No, one question allowed. You pay for the second one. So one question.
I can't hear you.
So the question is, does the cutting board affect the sharpness of your knife?
Yes, for sure. So if you're using like polycarbonate chopping boards or plastic chopping boards, it's really, really bad for your knives. Wood is amazing, you know. Try using wooden chopping boards. They are friendlier for the environment as well. Yeah, that's
The guy
yeah.
behind you.
So my question is that I've seen a lot of different videos, and the different videos tell you to apply different amounts of pressure while sharpening the knife. There's a video that mentions Bob Kramer was a bladesmith, and he mentions for a dull knife you use about 8 pounds of pressure, and for a regular knife it's about 3 to 4 pounds.
So I have an easier way to answer this. Are
Okay,
you a
and
chef?
repeat his third question.
Yeah, but I have an easier way to
He
answer
also
this.
flexed a lot in that.
Yeah.
He gave some threw some names at us. How much pressure is important to sharpen a knife?
I'm going to follow you up with a question. Are you a chef? Okay, so tell
He's
me
a
how.
student.
You're a student. Okay, how would you poach an egg without a thermometer? There's a simple thing. The water starts bubbling, and you put your eggs inside it. As soon as you start sharpening the knife and you see sediment develop over it, that's when you know you're doing it right. It's as simple as that.
But good question.
Yeah.
Okay, anyone who has questions, guys, follow at Mizu Izakaya on Instagram.
Samurai
please.
cook also.
Yes, and you can follow him. His hashtag is at samurai_cook.
Yeah.
If you have, you can DM him all sorts of questions. Please keep it PG-13. I can't tell you how, like, I was mesmerized by what you did today. It's unbelievable. We are really glad to have you here. You spoke about mentorship and how important chefs are, mentors are in your life. I know Chef Hussein's been a big mentor to you. I know you are a big mentor. I just want to say, Barkha, Chef Floyd's wife, is here. And I still remember when Chef Floyd used to come to Bombay and stand at the pass. He used to be like, who's the guy with the big hair? He's sweating a lot. But he always remembered you, and we used to tell him that he had his own bar. It's shut. He's come to work with us. He had so much respect and gratitude for you. And he's the one for all of us who's taught us about mentorship. So thank you so much. Thanks, guys.
I went for a shoot at this place and they were paying us to do that. And I had a really bad experience. I felt like the whole place was like smelling. I didn't feel safe eating anything, to the point where after every shot I was like secretly spitting the food out in a little tissue and keeping it aside. And then after the shoot I went back to office and I was like, Ronak, we can't post this. I think people are gonna go back to long form. Everyone's done with reels. That is the next big trend, I feel, and you're seeing this internationally also, of like slow content, or like people are literally posting like 1-2 hour long videos and people are watching.
You guys were ever bashed for recommending a certain place which later could not keep up with the hype?
We get bashed almost every
Every day.
other day because, I mean, food is so subjective, right? Like, everyone has their own opinions on it, so we're constantly getting bashed on them.
Next big trend, I feel, and you're seeing this internationally also, of like slow content, or like people are literally posting like 1-2 hour long videos and people are watching.
You guys were ever bashed for recommending a certain place which later could not keep up with the hype?
We get bashed almost every
Every day.
other day because, I mean, food is so subjective, right? Like, everyone has their own opinions on it, so we're constantly getting bashed on them.